All right, welcome everyone to the Flux Dev meeting. Today is Wednesday, the 31st of March. Do we have anyone on the call who's entirely new, who maybe want to introduce themselves and say what their interest is in Flux? Okay. Didn't recognize some of the names, but I wasn't sure. Okay, do we have action items from last meeting? Yes, okay, so somebody was supposed to open an umbrella issue to write down the plan for when we bump image update automation to V1 Alpha 2. Was that you, Michael, or and write a small talk explaining how to migrate? Yeah, I'm not sure if this has happened. Shall we keep it on the doc? I know that was Stefan.
Yeah, that was me or Stefan. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think either of us have done it.
Super. Okay, we'll copy that over. The other one was Michael will comment on revised Flux project description.
I think Scott ended up putting my comment in there.
Okay, super. Okay, so that's one down, and then Scott take another step at revised project description. I think that also happened. So it's just the one we copy over. Super. Thanks a lot, everyone. Where's the? Sorry, trying to figure out this new agenda format. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, if you're following along in the agenda doc, please add your item if you have anything. The first one is a repeating topic, weekly public check-in with Michael on image update automation. And then there's link to a pull request.
Yeah, all I really have for this week is that I have a pull request which does, I think, most of the changes now that are in the proposal. And there's a few to-dos still there, but it is, you can look at it if you want, or go and look at the proposal, which, is more or less equivalent. It's just the PR is the implementation of the proposal.
Do you need any help with anything? Anything somebody should go and test it, or?
Once I'm done with the PR, I guess we should decide whether we like it, and if we do, then we can put it, release it into the wild for a bit, and if that works, then we can make it a V1 beta 1.
I think we have a new feature missing. So we merged the GPG signing, but that field is not in.
Yeah, I need to rebase it on that.
Yeah. And we also have to do the same thing for image reflector controller. There it's, I don't know, straightforward, nothing actually changed. So it's just a bump, the version.
Yeah, we could either just accept that as V1 beta 1, at the same time, or we could make a new version, but I don't really see the point in making a new version because they do operate independently. They don't need to go in lockstep.
Oh, right. This one bumps the alpha version, right, for automation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it rearranges a bit of it, so it's not backward compatible, whereas all the reflector stuff is backward compatible.
Right. I see no reason to bump the reflector API. Nothing changed, cool. So okay.
Yeah.
Super. Anything else regarding image update automation?
Not from me. Happy to take questions or respond to other comments.
I saw something about Git submodule support. What's the status of Git submodule support in there?
In the image stuff specifically, or in source controller?
In Flux in general, I imagine that if there is Git submodule support, it's going to have issues with image automation, for now at least. But
yeah,
is there some mode of submodule support, say maybe as a replacement for remote bases, if someone wanted to use that right now, or is that forthcoming?
I think it just got merged today. So I remember my emails.
Neat.
It's a limited to Go Git, but otherwise, yeah, should just, oh, and limited to Go Git, and you have to be able to authenticate with all the different submodules recursively. But quite a lot of the time, that's easy to arrange, or they're public anyway.
Great, thank you.
Super. Any other questions for Michael?
What are plans around releasing the two controllers? So the situation is that we have several issues around leader election that we fixed, and there is also the status conflict for image automation controller that's also fixed but has no tests. Are we waiting till V1 Alpha 2 is ready and do the release then, or?
No. So Kevin is working on a test for the patching thing, but it's not his day job, so it's a bit on and off. So I'm waiting for that. That's because I don't want to see something go into a release without, something like that anyway, go into a release without having a test that demonstrates that the problem can be reliably reproduced and that the fix fixes it and doesn't cause other problems. But that's the only thing I'm waiting for.
We have the conflict also for image reflector, and is what it happens there. It will write the tag to its internal database. Then it will fail to update the status. And yeah, people have no idea that the update has happened. Image automation controller will actually use that to run the automation. Or no, because it looks at the status, right? We fail to update the status. So even if we have the new tag in the database, it's not in the status, and image automation will never run for that particular image. And the second time it runs, it will...
Want to update it next time? No?
It's already in the database, will it? I don't think so.
But it just, does it not just recalculate when it retries?
Yeah, I have to look it up if
not, it should do.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, this type of conflict will affect both controllers. So if we release the status patching, we should do it for both of them, because yeah, it's quite common. Yeah. The moment you place an image automation custom resource and an image policy in your main repo, that the one that's bootstrapped, then on any commit, the generation will change, because customized controller adds the garbage collection label. So both of them have great chances of running into conflicts. So yeah, I'm for releasing both of them with this fix after we have the test, not just one.
There's a couple of bugs that I might get to this week as well, so they might get into the next release.
The commit state, the commit message, right?
Yeah, the commit message template and the empty commits. The ones I'm thinking of, there may be others.
Anti-commit, and there is also the bug with not being able to push to a different branch that the one that's
right. That's a bit mysterious. Yeah. Today may get fixed in the release.
Okay, are we done on with
yep,
automation things? Super.
From me? Yeah.
Super. Had a bit of a hard time capturing this in the notes. Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of small things. So KubeCon is coming up, and there's two threads I'm involved in. One of them is the Flux project update. So there's going to be a keynote where basically all the CNCF, I think, incubation and graduated projects get to report on their progress. So we were in the past, it was somebody who just read bullet points from a slide. I think they want to make it a bit more interesting this time around, and they asked us for a recording, so we can go up to 10 minutes. So it would be good. We have until April 12th to hand this in, but we will need to submit like speaker info and registration, because you get a pass for KubeCon and all the stuff a bit earlier on, so we can work on a presentation together. But it would be good to figure out like who wants to do this a bit sooner.
I can do it.
Okay. I think we can steal a lot from the presentation we did for SIG app delivery. That was just 2 months ago. I think we can give a bit more of an update, like what we achieved or how close we are, but I hope you would be able to steal a couple of things. I'll help you with getting everything set up.
Yeah, I have some highlights in my mind of what we did since last KubeCon around Flux 2. So yeah, it should take me a couple of hours to make a presentation, but yeah, I'll try to reuse what we have and add more things. Then we can review it together with everyone here and do that. Do we have, now that we are in incubation, shouldn't we get a talk at KubeCon for the deep dive presentation like we had 2 years ago, when back then, for example, in San Diego last year, I did the deep dive because deep dives talks were included for sandbox projects. Now, because sandbox is so huge, they dropped that, but I think it's still valid for incubation now, and we should look it up and do the talk. I'm for doing a deep dive. Not me, anyone here can do it, but if it's that available, we should definitely register for it. Can you ask around?
I will ask around. I noted it down.
Thank you.
Okay, next KubeCon item. We got a project pavilion booth. The idea is that there's going to be like a virtual booth, a virtual, hall, and so we're still trying to figure out like how many of us can do this, what is required from everyone, and how it all works. But two things were already asked. Like one of them was like if we wanted to give out some kind of handout. I'm happy to help put something together. Tammo also said we would look into this. What would you like to push there. Can we do like a brief, brainstorming session? So you can just collect a couple of bullet points and then copy and paste things. What would you put in there into some kind of handout?
It's like a
Are you
digital handout.
referring merchandise like a t-shirts with
No,
Flux, or-
unfortunately not. It would be more like a, if you go to like a training event or some other event, you get like a printed kind of handout thing. So it would be more like a PDF something, I guess they would download. I mean, what I normally would think of would be something like a bit, like a brief project introduction, and then what you can do with the project, and maybe like a short, here's what a get started flow would look like, or what would you put in there?
Sort of an opportunity for a bit of design and marketing, right?
Yeah,
Something cute.
Yeah, the problem is we have until Friday to get it done. It's a bit short notice and crazy. So if you let me know, like, what is the information you would like to convey, I will try to make something happen. But is project history or project description, features, get started flow, is this something you would put in there?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is going to be what's it for and how do I look into it?
And a brief
kick the tires.
A brief who uses Flux kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be a good one as well.
Okay, super. There also another bit is surveys. So they asked if we wanted to do a survey, would this be of any interest? Like we did one in the past. You might remember, I put a link to it in the, I was going to say show notes, but it's not really a show what we're doing here, in the agenda doc. Would this be of any interest? Like how many people are using Flux 1, Flux 2, they're considering it? What is the kind of information you would want to get out of people? What would be useful?
I would definitely want to get out of people what Git says, what Git provider they are using, so we know where to move with Bootstrap next. Is it Bitbucket? Maybe something else. There are so many things there, we cannot do them all at once. So that would be a great information to know.
What about top feature you would like to see in a graphical user interface?
Yep. What else?
I would actually be interested in knowing like what the percentage are that use the Terraform provider compared to the CLI to bootstrap their clusters.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Terraform. Sorry, I didn't. Can somebody help me typing this up? Like a bit of a hard time.
Yeah.
Install procedure. Do you use CLI? Do you use Terraform? Do you just download the YAMLs and do your own thing? That would be the 3 possible answers. Right, Philip? I don't think.
And I think there are a few people who just pull the raw manifests from the release page, even though I tell people like, yeah, please don't. There are people still who do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an opportunity to get votes on the potential of using, like coming up with a Helm chart. Like how many users would like to see one?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Sorry, I didn't catch it. What about the Helm chart?
If people want a Helm chart for Flux version 2.
Super. Okay. Yeah, if you have anything else you can think of, please add it to the doc and I'll try to put something together quickly. Next item I had was, unless there's questions about KubeCon, anything we haven't covered yet. Okay, so we have an update on the website situation. So we're still in the process of moving the toolkit docs to Flux.io. The content side, I would say, is done. We moved to a new theme, so everything is a little bit broken right now, and we will very likely get somebody to, like a web developer, to do a couple of hours and fix the CSS things. In the agenda, there's links to the preview build and the current PR, so you get an idea of where things stand. Okay, unless there's any questions, Kingdom is next.
Thank you. Their JSON at GitHub Actions manifest generation tutorial continues to expand, but it should really, truly be ready for review today. I think after I take the lawnmower to it, I've given myself some feedback that it's much too long and that it should be much more heavy on code examples than commentary. If anyone's already reviewed it, I'd be interested in your feedback. But otherwise, please wait until after the lawnmower. I think I'm just going to slim it down to the outline and then take the code samples and only bring over as much commentary as we really need to explain the code samples, because it should be heavy focused on code samples. So, and then maybe some of the extended commentary that I've got here, we can turn into a blog post or add as content in the blog post. That would be nice, I think.
Definitely. Do you want volunteers for trying the things out?
Yes. Yeah, if you're using GitHub, or if you want to use JSON it, or if you want to use a different manifest generation tool, it would be helpful to know if there's anything in this doc that is difficult to adapt. Whether we're really going to need a series of these posts or not, I don't know. It might turn out that there's one spot where we can just say, plug in your manifest generation tools here, and it's super obvious for everyone what they should do.
Yep, cool. I might give it a go over the weekend.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so Kingdom, don't expect for this pull request to be merged this week. Sure. I think once you say, hey, is ready, let's try and post it a couple of times on Slack, ask people, hey, please give this a try, and so on, and leave it, I don't know, a couple of days after you said I'm done, to get some early feedback. If nothing happens, okay, we'll merge it.
Yeah, I said
by the end of next week or something.
Earlier that I thought it would be ready for publication. Really, all I meant by that is I don't want to ask people to review it before I think it's ready for publication. So
yeah. So first you give everybody the go ahead, and then we'll try to make it more popular. Ask people to try it out.
Great, thank you.
It's such a vast territory, like so many, you can use so many things to generate YAML. So it's I hope some people will have interest in that and give us some good feedback.
That's it for me.
Okay, Philip wants to give a quick status update on rate limiting in notification controller.
Yeah, so it's been kind of always with me, it takes a while to get things done because other things kind of pop up. But I've been implementing rate limiting for both alerts, or the alert endpoint and the receiver endpoint, to especially users then who expose receivers to the internet, so that you don't basically end up getting spammed. If someone finds your token, it's like, sure, the token is something randomly generated, but there's still a possibility. So you and each request against the receiver endpoint results in some sort of Kubernetes API call. Yeah, it's implemented, and I'm running my version of this in a cluster that I have that's not too dependent on notifications while we're working. I'm seeing some weird behavior sometimes with commit status events, so I just have to kind of look at that. And then I just need to get metrics working, because I realized that, yeah, it's probably good if we're going to implement a rate limiter that we want metrics for how many rate limits we're actually doing in the notification controller, so it's not something that's too invisible. But I'm also in the middle of doing a migration of my metric solution, so I'll have to see how I can get metrics working properly, or at least so I can test it. Yeah, so, but I'll try to get some work done today on it. Yeah, and thanks, Stefan, for all the review and looking at that. It's kind of, you bring up a lot of points there with like different weird edge cases that you kind of end up in.
Yeah, I made the comment before this meeting around adding the revision to the rate limiter key. What this will help is, let's say you do a git commit that gets applied on a cluster and it fails. With the rate limiting, what will happen, instead of getting an error message on your Slack every time the control runtime retry with backoff kicks in, so instead of getting 10 identical error messages in a very short interval, you'll get only one, and then you'll get one every 5 minutes, and that's great. But the issue is, maybe you change something again in your Git repo, you commit it again, and that also fails. And let's say it fails with the same message. You'll not get that error message because we don't take into account revision. And I think we should take into account revision. And if you keep pushing to Git, you'll get every time a notification if it's successful or if it failed. That's why I think revision is important. And that's for customizations and Git repos, but revision is also used for Helm releases. So let's say maybe your Helm release fails the same every time, even if you bump the version, but we want to show on Slack or whatever that, hey, it also failed for the new version you published, and it also failed for the next version you published, and so on. Make sense?
Yeah. I was just kind of like, it's like slow going, because, you don't want to break existing use cases and just rate limit way too much. I think that's my biggest worry right now, is that we implement a rate limiter and all of a sudden people go, oh, I'm not getting any events at all, because they're expecting something to happen and we're just rate limiting it. So it's, I'm going to try, I want to run this for a while, or at least a couple of days in my cluster, and I'll try to do some receiver tests, even though I don't use receiver. Just to kind of see what happens with all these different use cases.
It sounded like, Philip, you were talking about rate limiting incoming stuff, and then Stefan, you were talking about deduplicating outgoing stuff. Is that accurate? Have I understood?
Both things are incoming to notification controller. So notification controller has two web servers. One is to receive events from other controllers, and one is to receive events from external systems. And that's why there are two, because you need two ports. One will be exposing through an ingress controller, one inside. Now, for the one that's exposed inside the events, the issue we have right now is the fact that something fails when it applies, or doing a Helm upgrade. And because we have this retrying,
deduplicating, that's what I meant by on the way out. So typically that would then go to Slack or somewhere else.
Yeah, it spans the end receiver, the Slack, but it also spans with Kubernetes API queries, because every time we receive an event, we have to query it, okay, where it comes from, and so on. That's one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is around exposing notification controller outside the cluster. So let's say GitHub and GitLab can reach you, and assuming there is a bug in GitLab. If GitLab will send 1,000, the same push event 1,000 times, we'll do 1,000 queries for the API because we need to annotate the object every time we receive the hook, right? So what we are trying to say is, hey, if I'm receiving in the last 5 minutes, if I'm receiving the same payload with the same commit, with the same message, same everything from GitLab, GitHub, whatever, we'll just rate limit that. So we have at least some protection against external system DDoSing your Kubernetes API.
Yep, makes sense.
Great. Yeah, but all that's what I'm kind of working on right now. And then I'll probably have a loop around and look at the tests, the suite tests for notification controller, and maybe split them out into separate controller tests, because now everything is in one single test file. I think it's going to be a lot easier to read in the future.
Yeah.
Great. That's all for me.
Any questions for Philip? Okay. Yeah, that's the end of our agenda. Does any one of you have any things you were hoping to discuss? Or any feedback, anything?
As an announcement that we'll be releasing a new version of source controller that will be able to pull Git submodules if you enable that inside the Git repository custom resource. So right now you can, if you have a Git submodules in your repo and you add that repo to your cluster, a source controller will not pull the submodules. It will only pull the main repository. And there are Flux version 1 users that were relying on Flux YAML. They were shelling out to Git, and they will iterate through each submodule, and they will do Git init for all those submodules to get all the files in there. The end result is that people want to use Git submodules instead of customize remote base, because customize has no kind of caching and so on. It clones everything all the time, and it can take very long. And we had no migration path for these users. So what we managed to do is, so GoGit, one of the libraries that we used for cloning, fixed a bunch of issues with submodules. Now we've added the submodule option to source controller, and starting with the next release, the V1 users that were relying on some modules for everything they do, they will be able to migrate to V2. That's the gist of it.
Is there any other imminent releases? Is that the only thing that's happening right now?
Sorry, Michael, I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking that's sort of the only new thing since the last release, which, to be fair, was only last weekish, wasn't it?
No, so the next Flux release will contain some other stuff. So besides the submodule feature that we've merged, there is also now the possibility to use GoGit with Git servers that are exposed with self-signed TLS certificates, and that opens the gate to bootstrap against an on-prem GitLab instance that have self-signed certs. Is not possible today, and that opens the possibility now, because we have this capability in GoGit, opens the possibility not only to define Git repos but also to bootstrap against such a Git instance. And we also got Sentry. support in notification controller. If you don't know what Sentry is, it's a SaaS for logging and alerts and incident management and so on. And now the same way we send alerts to Slack, we can send alerts now to Sentry, and from there you can configure alerting and so on. So for users that are relying on Sentry to ship all the logs from Kubernetes, alerts and so on, they can use Flux Notification Controller to get the same experience inside Sentry. That's about it.
That's terrific. Sentry is open source too. You can run it on your own premises.
Yes, it's quite popular, and the way we structure the notification alerting and provider, how the API works and so on, fit perfectly with Sentry because it uses the same webhook type authentication that Slack and others are using. So it was really nice to see that contributed to notification control. It was from a first-time contributor. Everything worked fine. So yeah, I'm really happy about it.
Super. Any last comments? In that case, we can wrap up 20 minutes early.
Yep.
Have a good one. And see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.